We built everything from scratch together, but once we had it all, he cheated on me with a divorced woman who had a child. She was quite ordinary looking, not particularly shapely, and 3 years older than me. I couldn't understand it at all. He actually said that she cooked very well, and since being with her, his stomach issues hadn't recurred. He didn't want to deal with the schemes of the business world anymore. He just wanted a home. She's inferior to you in every way, but she loves me sincerely, Ava. When I needed you most, you were never there. If you had to choose between your career and me, who would you choose? Choose who? I left. For 10 years I had lived for him, to make the company thrive and to let him relax. I had worked like Julie tirelessly, but look at this. It's ridiculous. My husband loved a woman named Lily. She was a bit plump. When she bowed her head, she revealed a double chin, and there were wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. She was divorced because her ex-husband was a gambling addict, and she was currently living with her 6-year-old son in an apartment that my husband rented for her. The apartment was nothing special. Lily was also the kind of person easily forgotten in a crowd. If she hadn't sought me out herself that day, I probably wouldn't have ever noticed her. When I hired a detective to investigate her, the detective even thought I was joking. Ava, aren't you being too sensitive? Your husband, the CEO of Origin Group. How could he possibly fall for this kind of woman? Indeed, compared to me, Lily was nothing remarkable, neither in appearance nor figure. She was uneducated and incompetent, not qualified to compare to me in any way. But this very woman was now wearing my old clothes, carrying my old handbags, driving the Santana I no longer used. And she stopped me after work. You're Ava, right? I want to talk to you about your husband, who is also my lover and the father my child trusts most. Jack. Jack and I have been together for 3 years. For the past 3 years, he has been very good to me and my child. Tim is about to start 1st grade. We need a household registration, and I hope you can help. 3 short sentences. I recounted them to the detective verbatim. The detective frowned and took the case. In less than a week, evidence of Jack's extramarital affair piled up into a stack of documents, a thick photo album, and a bunch of videos. These recordings documented the daily life of Jack and Lily. They were like a normal couple, picking up the child from school together, going to the market and supermarket. Lily did laundry, cooked and cleaned. Jack read books to the child. She called him husband and he called her wife. The boy also called him dad. They lived harmoniously and happily. These were scenes that Jack and I had once imagined. But back then we were so poor that we couldn't even afford a room to rent where we could cook. A cramped basement. A tiny single bed. When I had a high fever, he would use a knife to slice ginger, add some brown sugar, boil it in a kettle and cook me a bowl of brown sugar ginger water. The warm feeling spread throughout my body. He comforted me and cursed at the capitalists. Wait until next month. We'll rent an apartment where we can cook. Next year, I'll buy you a car so you won't have to be drenched in the rain anymore. Ava, believe me, we will succeed. I believed him then. Jack was very poor then, but he loved me very much. He would pick out all the meat in the lunchbox for me. He would run all over the streets to buy egg waffles for me. He even sold the precious heirlooms left by his mother just to have money to buy me a beautiful dress, to make me stand out at the company's year-end party. I cherished that dress like a treasure. Even after I became rich, I never criticized it for being outdated. But one day that dress suddenly disappeared. I searched everywhere, even reported it to the police. Only when I saw it on Lily did I understand. Perhaps when Jack gave that dress to her, he had completely forgotten its meaning, forgotten the memories of me and him. I placed Lily's picture in front of Jack. His expression was not panicked as I had imagined. On the contrary, he breathed a sigh of relief, as if he had unloaded a burden. The man in his 30s, at the most charming age of his allure, sat on the sofa with a calm and noble demeanor. He said, "Let's get divorced." Those words echoed in my ears. A fog suddenly rose in my eyes. I clenched my palms, trying to remain calm. Facing his indifference, I also maintained my composure and replied with a single word, "Okay." Jack took a light breath, then presented me with a pre-prepared divorce agreement. Everything, houses, cars, stocks, assets, divided equally. We will divorce peacefully. It turned out he had been preparing for the divorce for a long time, while I, on my way here, was still hoping, even thinking about whether I should forgive him. I laughed sarcastically, took the divorce agreement, and tore it into pieces. In Jack's eyes I saw helplessness, and even a hint of pity. Ava, why bother? Even if you tear it up, we can't go back. Lily is a good woman. I don't want to let her down. You don't understand. Lily gives me the feeling of a real wife. He tried to persuade me to let go. But Jack, you overestimate yourself. Why would I, Ava, cling to a scumbag like you? I placed our prenuptial agreement in front of Jack. The composed expression on his face finally changed slightly. He frowned, his thin lips tightened. He seemed to recall the vow he made years ago, whispering in my ear, Ava, I will only love you for life. If I betray you, heaven will strike me, and I will die without a burial place. This prenuptial agreement was a promise from a man to the woman he loved back then. Jack was young and arrogant. His love for me was passionate and intense. I once thought I was the happiest woman in the world, having found the best man. But now, Jack with red eyes jumped up, pointed at my face and gritted his teeth. Ava, this empire was built by me. I've already given you half. What more do you want? Yes, Lily is inferior to you in every way. But what about you? A greedy woman blindly obsessed with money. Unscrupulous and without any regard for old feelings. That's precisely why I can't love you anymore. Let me tell you, I love Lily. Without her, I would die. You want money? I'll give you everything. But you will leave empty-handed. I have found my soulmate. And you, Ava, in this lifetime, you will never meet someone who truly loves you. In 15 years of knowing him, Jack had always been a calm and elegant man in front of me. But today, for the first time, I saw him with red eyes. For another woman. I silently walked out. In the early spring morning of March, a cold wind carrying light rain seeped into my coat, without a trace of warmth. Ahead of me was an upscale spa. I just stood at the door, and the staff immediately opened it to welcome me. They led me into a VIP room, where warmth quickly spread throughout the space. The familiar technician smiled and introduced the treatment options. I soaked in a mineral bath at a comfortable temperature. The steam helped soothe the wrinkles on my forehead. In my mind, the rainy night years ago suddenly appeared. At that time, just to save a few dollars, I sat on the back of Jack's bicycle, wrapped my arms tightly around his waist and comforted myself. So what if we don't have money? We have love. As long as we have love, no matter how poor we are, it's still sweet. But now, I no longer had love. Could it be that I wouldn't get money either? Leaving the spa, I went straight to a bar. I swiped my card for $10,000 without hesitation. Instantly, more than 10 young men appeared before me. In an instant, I felt like I was blind. They all had the shadow of Jack from the past. They called me sister, and everyone said sweet words. They were gentle. They were honey-tongued. Look, with money I could have as much love as I wanted. I could have whoever I wanted. Even if I no longer had Jack's love, what was there to regret about a man's love? The next time Jack and I sat face to face, we had gone through 2 divorce hearings. My lawyer told me that the prenuptial agreement was legally valid, but the court would also consider other factors. It was very difficult to make Jack leave empty-handed. The best solution was to negotiate between the 2 parties. At least when we meet again, we can still be friends. My lawyer sensed the regret in my eyes. Regret for such a miserable Jack. Under the witness of 2 lawyers, I accepted 70% of the assets and he kept 30%. Regarding the ownership of the company, after a moment of thought, I decided not to take it. When we signed our names on all the documents, no one said another word. We just silently signed and stamped until everything was over. The lawyers also left. He looked at me, his eyes slightly narrowed as if considering something. Ava, in this marriage, am I the only one at fault? I chuckled lightly. Of course. I didn't cheat. He shook his head, his eyes filled with helplessness. If I divorced you for a young and beautiful girl, you could blame me for being ungrateful. You could say I changed my mind, but I chose Lily. She is too ordinary. Even divorced and has a child. She can't compare to you. But I love her. Don't you want to know why? I want to know. I want to know why I, who am so perfect, who am admired by so many people, would lose to an ordinary divorced woman. When Jack stayed up all night working on a plan, I could drink alcohol for him until my stomach bled. Jack didn't like business networking. I was willing to solve everything for him. He needed to save face. I bowed my head and yielded in front of everyone. He needed achievements. I gave up all the credit, paving the way for him to soar. So why? Why did he abandon me? Lily cooks very well. For 3 years with her, my stomach problems have not recurred. She is not as busy as you. Every time I come home, the room is always lit. There is always hot soup on the table, my clothes are always clean, and the bedding is always warm, Jack continued. And what about you? We've been married for 10 years. It's always me waiting for you to come home. It's always cold and desolate, without any warmth. Even when I had stomach pains, I could only take medicine with cold water. Do you know what shoe size I wear? Do you know what size BB shirt I wear? You have never cared about these things. Lily is not as good as you, but she always keeps me in her heart. And you? In your heart there is only work. Every time I need you most, you are always at the negotiating table. If you had to choose between work and me, who would you choose? I listened in silence, my eyes slightly red. I didn't know that, in all these peaceful years together, he had harbored so many grievances. But wasn't it him who put me in that position at the negotiating table? Ava, I'm not good at negotiating. I'm afraid of socializing with people. Just drinking 2 glasses of wine and I can't handle it. Why must I get drunk to sign a contract? My stomach hurts from the stress. But Ava, I don't want to lose. I'm afraid of being poor. I just wanted to give you a good life. Those memories, scene after scene, flashed by. But perhaps Jack had forgotten all of them. I chuckled lightly, not wanting to answer him anymore. When I stood up to leave, Jack suddenly grabbed my hand. Ava, he asked me one last question. When did you start to stop loving me? His eyes were filled with pain, and in their depths a flash of tears. I shook off his hand, my heart harder than ever. Get out. Don't ever appear in front of me again. I swore. When the lawyer helped me inventory the assets, he sighed softly, full of regret. That company has quite a high market value, Ava. Giving it up like this is such a pity. With this prenuptial agreement, we could have one ownership of the company. I shook my head. Keeping the company in hand means having to manage it, having to invest too much energy. Even if we sell it, it would take at least 1 to 2 years for auditing the books. Too much trouble. The lawyer nodded. That's true. But currently the company is operating very well. Who knows? Maybe in the future it can even be listed on the stock market, right? I used to have a plan to list this company. Jack once said, wait until the company is listed and we will have children. A boy and a girl put together. It will be the word good. But now, I didn't need to bother doing that anymore. I called my assistant, Kim, and asked her to help me pack up my personal belongings in the office. But on the other end of the line, Kim was crying. Ava, these past few days you haven't been to the company. A new director has been appointed. He specifically requested to use your office and said you would never come back here again. Then he directly ordered to clear out your office. Your things were either picked up by the cleaning staff or thrown in the trash. I clenched my palm. Kim's voice continued to ring through the phone. I called you several times, but you didn't answer. Ava, please go to the company's internal chat group. This new financial director is too much. He dared to treat you like this. Why aren't you at the company? Everyone is talking about you. Please speak up and clarify. I feel indignant for you. I frowned and immediately opened the company group chat. 99 unread messages. All from a strange name, Leo. He introduced himself as the new financial director of the company, who would be responsible for paying all employees in the future. Initially, everyone welcomed his arrival, but after a few sentences, the atmosphere immediately changed. He was just a newcomer, but he acted like a superior, lecturing everyone in the company chat group, especially targeting the female employees of my sales department. His words were insinuating, indecent, and insulting. Girls like Kim immediately retorted. But he was not polite at all, directly posting pictures of me entertaining clients at the drinking table. All those pictures were of me working. None of them showed any intimate actions beyond limits with other men. But with just a few malicious hints, He had smeared me with dirty accusations. Leo said. Asterisk, look at your co-Ava. Always shouting about signing contracts, etc. But in reality, she just relies on her face to make money. Business is important, but women still have to maintain morality. In the end, they still have to get married and have children. Otherwise, they will end up like co-Ava. Abandoned, becoming a discarded woman. She's been fired. This is the clearest evidence. Asterisk. His harsh words caused a huge controversy in the group. Under Kim's leadership, the group of female employees began to attack Leo. But he refused to admit defeat, becoming even more provocative. Every time he was cursed, he used my photos to fight back, even photoshopping them to defame me. The images were so outrageous and filthy that it was unbelievable. The girls in the group frantically spammed messages, trying to explain and vindicate me. But these fools, facing defamation, fell into the trap of self-defense. Explaining things. I had never done anything wrong. I didn't need to explain. But for what others had done, I only needed to use the law to protect my rights. While Leo was happily cursing in the group, the police arrived. They announced that he had committed defamation. He laughed disdainfully. Defamation? What defamation? I'm telling the truth. The police asked him to provide evidence. He smugly pointed to the edited photos. This is the evidence. The police lost patience. They directly took out handcuffs and prepared to escort him to the station. Leo arrogantly threatened, defamation or insulting personal honor is not enough to arrest me. Is it Ava who called you guys here? Tell her if she wants to sue me, just send a lawsuit. If you want me to be convicted, you still have to go to court. Don't even think about intimidating me. The police coldly replied, You're right. Those charges are not under our jurisdiction. But we are here because you committed theft. Leo was stunned. Theft? What theft? He had long forgotten that he had thrown away my personal belongings. Those items were all expensive brand names, worth a considerable amount. The police didn't bother to argue with him anymore. Right in front of more than 500 people in the company, they handcuffed him and put him in the police car. Leo, as desired, went straight to the detention center. The person who came to the detention center to negotiate with me was Jack. Ava, can you forgive Leo? Jack took a deep breath and asked me with a face full of discomfort and annoyance. I quietly looked at him. Fire Leo. He pursed his lips. I just agreed with Lily to let Leo into the company. Jack told me that Leo was Lily's younger brother. I frowned and coldly replied, Then let him go to jail. Ava, don't make things difficult for me. The look in his eyes was no longer the affection of the past, only annoyance and weariness. Let Lily apologize to you. Let Leo apologize to Kim and the other girls. That's no problem. But this has nothing to do with Lily. She is innocent. Lily is innocent. How ridiculous. A third party dared to mention the word innocent. If she wasn't behind him, would Leo dare to be so arrogant? I raised my head to look at Jack, increasingly feeling that I had never truly understood the man in front of me. What do you think? How should this matter be resolved? I asked. He sighed. How much money do you want? I will compensate. Money. Again money. In Jack's eyes, perhaps there was nothing that money couldn't solve with me. But Jack, the money you have left is just because I pitied you and left it for you. 1 million. That's all the cash you have now. Will you take it and let this matter pass? What if I say no? If you don't agree, Leo doesn't need to apologize to Kim and them anymore. Your office belongings I will compensate in full. Leo also won't go to jail, just delay the handling time. His tone was firm, word by word. If it were the past me, with the demeanor at the negotiating table, I would definitely endure all the humiliation and take the practical benefits. Because those benefits, little by little, had built our home, Jack's and mine. But now, I felt that the past me, for a contract ignoring self-respect, was truly despicable. I stood up, without hesitating for another second. Lawsuit? Fine. I want to see who wins and who loses. Stepping out of the police station, I opened my phone and sent each file that the detective had collected for me into the company chat group. Nearly 10 gigabytes of data. I sent it in original photo mode, unedited, unhidden. Pictures, videos, all recording in detail the entire process of Jack and Lily's affair. I thought that doing this much was enough to restrain Lily, enough for her to understand that provoking me was a mistake. I knew clearly in my heart. Kim lost her parents early and had to raise 2 younger siblings, a brother and a sister. Their living expenses and tuition fees were all borne by Kim alone. Without money, she was very anxious. So, she also learned from me, using every means to sign contracts. Leo and the group insulted me and also insulted Kim in the same way. Another girl, Julie, her mother had cerebral palsy, and her father was disabled. She dropped out of school early. No degree.
No connections.
Not even very smart. Being able to stand firm in the city was entirely thanks to her thick skin, kneeling down to beg customers to sign contracts. The sales position didn't require high qualifications. Anyone could do it. But to be able to disregard self-respect, to trade all dignity for work, who wasn't someone bearing heavy responsibility with no way back? Mandy, Jenny, and Yvonne were also like Kim and Julie. Pitiful circumstances, lacking money, but still maintaining ethical boundaries. From what I understand about Jack, if he has signed non-compete agreements with you, he will definitely transfer compensation to you. That's not a small amount. If you receive it, then at least for the next few years you won't have to worry. But if someone is foolish in this matter and doesn't transfer compensation, then how do you want to start a business? Of course, it's up to you to decide. After hearing me say this, the whole group smiled, seemingly having made a decision in their hearts. A month later, not surprisingly, that non-compete compensation was not transferred to Kim and the girls' accounts at all. Not only that, but even the N+1 compensation they should have received was also not there. Only a few thousand of basic salary, as if they were chasing away beggars. Kim said, "Even though we didn't receive compensation from the old company, I feel full of enthusiasm now." Julie also agreed. "They have been unjust, so don't blame us for being unrighteous." That day, I gave them the prepared shareholding contracts. Everyone was surprised, then immediately overjoyed. 20% of shares divided equally? Coeva. You really treat us like your own sisters. With this share, I have to break my legs to sign contracts. Leaving was the right decision. Otherwise, how would I have the opportunity to get rich like this? I didn't worry too much about the establishment of the new company. 1, because I trusted Kim and them. 2, because I wanted to let them take charge and face it themselves. Originally, that was the promise I made to them, that everyone would have a home of their own. I still remembered at the beginning when we gathered together, everyone's goal was different. Kim said she wanted to give her younger siblings a home. Julie said she wanted to give her parents a home. Mandy said she wanted to have a home of her own. And me? I wanted to maintain my home with Jack. Now my home was gone. How could I be willing to let them not have a home either? The first money earned, Kim and the girls shared. Enough to pay the deposit to buy a house in the city. The second amount of money was enough for each person to buy a car. The third amount of money, they said they wanted to introduce me to a young man. I thought they were joking, didn't pay attention. But at that celebration party, I drank a little too much. Kim's younger brother, Ken, took on the role of escorting me home. When I couldn't walk on my own, he proactively carried me on his back. His broad but thin shoulders had the youthful appearance only he possessed. I lay on his back, but my heart was empty. Entering the house, I lay sideways on the sofa. Ken knelt down in front of me and took off my high heels. He also thoughtfully poured water and brought a warm towel for me. His careful actions and gestures were exactly like how Jack used to take care of me. "Ava, don't push yourself for contracts anymore. Next time don't drink so much, okay? I will try harder. Making those bastards admit defeat for the products I create. Ava, I love you." Jack's confession had been very clumsy, not too sweet. But back then I was bewitched, immersed in it. "Coeva, is there anything else you need me to do?" Ken's youthful face gradually appeared in my hazy eyes. I gently shook my head, smiling helplessly. Kim's really too much, sending her own younger brother here. Ken immediately became tense.
No.
"It's not related to my sister." His face flushed red, extremely shy. "It's me who wants to come. My sister," said Coeva after the divorce, "doesn't look happy at all. Wanting to introduce a boyfriend to you." As if mustering all his courage, he raised his head, his eyes warmly looking at me. I like you, Koeva. I want to be your boyfriend. I was stunned, my eyes gradually becoming hazy. Boyfriend? Was it wanting to be my boyfriend or wanting the resources in my hands? Boyfriend? His eyes firmly looked at me. Looking at him, I found it interesting. A young man. Not too bad. When alcohol soaked into people, they often became impulsive. I woke up. My mind blanked for a moment, then slowly regained consciousness. Stepping out of the room, Ken was still there. On the table was a breakfast of egg sandwiches and milk. I swallowed dryly. Ken smiled gently at me. Some images suddenly flooded into my head. I almost wanted to dig a hole and hide in it out of embarrassment. Koeva, you're awake. Eat breakfast first. Later, I don't have class, so I'll go to the market to buy groceries to cook lunch for you. Do you want to eat pigeon soup? Or what do you want to eat? Just tell me. I took a deep breath, wanting to tell Ken to leave immediately. But when his bright and radiant eyes met mine, I couldn't bear to. Before I could open my mouth, he had taken off his apron and gone out. When he returned, he carried all kinds of large and small bags, vegetables, meat, and even daily necessities. He filled up all the missing items in the house: dish soap, laundry detergent, toilet paper. The sound of the range rang in my ears. He was busy going back and forth while I sat on the sofa, eating snacks he handed to me. Outside the window, the sun was beautiful. The house was airy and warm. He told many stories about how he only dared to look at me from afar before, not daring to approach. He also talked a lot about not minding the age gap. In the end, he concluded that I could be a freeloader, or I could support you. As long as I can be by your side, whatever role I am willing to take on. Even if I didn't agree to let him be my boyfriend, being my little servant, he also completely didn't object. He said, "My feelings are very pure. If that's the case, then let's be pure for a bit. $10,000 a month. I need you to be always available when I call." He was stunned for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Kim also said, "Being with Koeva is my younger brother's blessing." When Jack brought Lily to attend gatherings, I also took Ken. Not avoiding but appearing in front of everyone. Occasionally, we unintentionally bumped into each other. Jack's expression was unnatural, while Lily, next to him, immediately sneered. Koeva, an old woman already, still learning from others to play this game? Without me needing to respond, Ken immediately spoke up. That's right. Raising a kept man is not something every woman can do. An old woman already and still having to be supported by someone definitely wouldn't understand this joy. Lily was choked. Her face turned pale and then dark. Throughout the event, Lily kept deliberately creating conflicts with me. But all were blocked by Ken with a few sharp words. And Jack and I, from beginning to end, didn't exchange glances. But the gossip of the guests, even if he pretended not to hear, he must have heard quite a bit. Mrs. Jack is really blessed. CO Jack must spoil her very much. Miss Jack must cook very well, right? I really admire Co Jack. Lily heard those social niceties and actually took them as real, not realizing people were mocking her for being fat and boring. She kept bragging about her cooking skills nonstop. At first, some guests still responded with a few words out of politeness. But listening for too long, many people silently scattered. Because it was too tedious. On occasions like this, everyone wanted to exchange useful information. Matters of cooking, raising children, and taking care of husbands were not something anyone wanted to care about. Moreover, I, thanks to the rapid development in my career, had become the object that the ladies wanted to exchange information with. The number of people gathered around Lily became fewer and fewer, while the number of people gathered around me became more and more. Until the event ended. Outside it was raining. A car pulled in front of the door. Ken, without a word, scooped me up in his arms in front of everyone. Stepping over the puddles, he put me into the car. Quite a few gentlemen followed suit, scooping up their petite wives. Some couples were older, knowing their husband's strength, so they didn't force it, just rolled up their pants and waded through the water. But when it came to Jack, things were not so easy. Recently Lily, being loved by Jack, had gained a significant amount of weight. From 65 kilograms before, now it was 75 kilograms. Jack's arm had been injured before. 75 kilograms was a big challenge for him. But Lily was vain, constantly mentioning that her designer lambskin shoes couldn't get wet. Jack, in front of everyone, couldn't refuse Lily. As a result, just lifting her leg up, she stumbled and fell. Both of them fell, sprawling into the puddle. When Ken drove away, I looked through the rearview mirror and saw Jack clutching his wrist, his face full of pain. Lily, with tears in her eyes, called for help. Some people enthusiastically helped. Some people comforted. But the corners of everyone's mouths held indiscernible smiles. That night Jack called me. But because Ken was with me, I didn't answer. The next morning, waking up, Ken picked up my phone from under the bed and told me there was a new message. Only then did I see the message Jack sent.
Ava, I'm sorry.
I regret it. I was possessed to fall in love with a fat pig and abandon you. Ava, can you forgive me? Ava, don't be with that young kid anymore. Love me again, okay? My arm is injured. It hurts. It hurts so much. Asterisk asterisk. More than 100 messages. The tone full of alcohol. Jack was not someone who liked to express emotions, so I was almost certain he was drunk. I stared at the phone, not noticing Ken calling me. When I regained my senses, Ken was looking at me worriedly. He hugged me and whined. Ava, I don't like seeing your ex-husband in your contact list. Delete him, okay? I was stunned. He childishly continued. Delete him or I won't play with you anymore. As soon as the childishly sulky words ended, he hugged me tightly again. Okay, whether you delete him or not. I can't be without you. If I had known, I shouldn't have let you go to that event last night. You wore that dress looking like a fairy. Jack didn't know how to cherish you before. Went to pick up the garbage outside. Now seeing the garbage is useless, he comes back to find you. You must not forgive him because of old feelings. Ken spoke, his eyes already red. I patted his head, coaxing him for a while. Then in front of him I deleted Jack's number. Only then did he smile brightly. As the company developed, quite a few former employees contacted me. They said they couldn't continue working for Jack and wanted to jump ship to my company. I had no reason to refuse, so I accepted them all. Occasionally, Kim recounted the complaints of the former employees about Jack. CEO Jack is good at technology but doesn't know how to manage finances, nor does he understand human feelings. Blindly trusting the person in his bed made us disappointed. Due to mismanagement, the company's profits plummeted, causing our technical team to have our salaries cut in half. Who can accept that? Before, expense reports were not so regulated. Since Leo came, don't even mention reporting. Even wanting to receive our own salary is difficult. He's just an accountant, but acts like our salaries are taken from his pocket. So infuriating. I then understood that Leo and Lily had taken advantage of Jack's power to run rampant in the company. They had borrowed everywhere and mortgaged assets. Leo was not satisfied with the accountant's salary and embezzled public funds, causing employees' salaries to be unpayable. When the former employees were angry and reported to Jack, the matter was discovered. Jack promptly discovered it and wanted to put Leo in jail. But Lily kept begging for her brother, causing Jack to sell his house to make up for the losses. Their whole family had to leave the luxury apartment and move to a rented house. The changes in life did not make Lily realize the seriousness of the problem. On the contrary, she even repeatedly condoned Leo to continue to run rampant. Therefore, the bankruptcy of Jack's company was predictable. When I heard this news, Ken was cooking soup in the kitchen. Kim looked at me and asked, Ava, tell me honestly, with my brother like this, aren't you planning to give him a title? I raised an eyebrow. Title of boyfriend? Isn't that already given to him? Ken came over, lightly kissed my forehead and said, Don't worry about us anymore. Worry about finding a boyfriend for yourself. Ava doesn't want to get married, that's fine. I'm okay as long as you are with me. Even if I'm called a kept man, I'm happy to accept it.